Hi guys, this is Vidas,
And Ausra?
and we're starting episode 59 of Ask Vidas and Ausra podcast. Today's question was sent by Minori, and he writes that he has a challenge with articulation and phrasing in the pedal part. He writes, while playing the organ, I just can manage to coordinate my hands and feet, and it is not easy for me to care about articulation and phrasing in the pedal part. That's a very common problem with beginners, right?
Yes,
Ausra?
definitely.
Not beginners in general playing the instrument, but beginners organists.
Sure.
Because organ articulation is very different from other types of instruments. I would say that when people first try to articulate in piano, they manage to play everything legato, I would say, pretty much easier. But then when they transfer to the organ, somehow they forget that you can do all kinds of articulation with the organ.
Yes.
What's your experience with this, Ausra?
Yes, the same actually. Organ is quite a tricky instrument, to play well, to articulate well. Because the principles of its mechanic is so different from the piano. Because it's a wind instrument. You don't have to forget it. And also you have such a different ways to articulate when you're playing early music and when you're playing later music. And also, when you play piano, you just have to think about how you press the key down, but not so much as you release it. But in organ, playing organ, articulating organ is very important, both the beginning of a sound and the end of it. So you have to be very careful about it.
Good idea, Ausra. Beginners tend to forget the ending of the chord a lot, and sometimes even the beginning, and they tend to depress the 3 or 4 notes, not necessarily not necessarily together.
Yes.
At the same time. Precisely. But I would say there is another issue with Minori here. I can read between the lines, because he is having difficulty with coordinating hands and feet, and then articulation and phrasing becomes a challenge, right? It's sort of like he first thinks about the notes and then about articulation afterwards only.
Well, and when you are learning a new piece, you have to start with the right articulation right away. It will, maybe a process will be a little bit slower at the beginning, but it will give you much better result at the end. So just work slowly, think about articulation right away, work in combinations. Play pedal line, just a single pedal line first. Then do right hand and pedals, then left hand and pedals. And only when you are comfortable by playing all these combinations, only then put everything together.
Hey Ausra, what was your first piece that you played on the organ?
Well, that was G minor Prelude and Fugue from the 8 Little Prelude and Fugues by J.S. Bach.
So you had like 12 years of experience of playing piano before that, and now you're starting to play the organ, right? And your teacher assigned you this G minor Prelude and Fugue from 8 Little cycle. And did you try to coordinate your hands and feet, or you thought about it articulation right away?
Well, I don't know, I had so many challenges at that time. Everything was so new, all that articulation business and pedaling business, that I don't know. But I don't think I learned in a good manner right away. Nobody talked with me like this, what I have to do first and what I have to do later. So I just tried to play all together and do everything at the same time, and it wasn't easy, and I think I wasn't successful. The biggest challenge for me was, to go in the pedal from note G to a note C. It seemed like impossible thing.
And for me, my first piece, it was a little bit earlier than yours. I started playing a couple of years earlier in my school in Klaipėda, and it was Jėzų meine Freude by Bach from the Orgelbüchlein. And my teacher, gave me to choose any chorale prelude from this collection that I wanted. I wasn't very good sight reader, and I didn't have recordings then. There was no YouTube to listen to, so I just flipped the pages through and maybe chose the most understandable one that I could comprehend at that time. And as yourself, I tried to play everything at once and everything legato.
Yeah.
So when September came, I think I had like a couple of weeks of practice at home, and then my first lesson, I came to my teacher, and she was so angry with me. She said, "It's better not to practice this prelude at all than to practice it incorrectly with legato." Now I had to redo it and relearn it the right way.
Well, how could you know about articulation at that time?
Yeah, she wasn't very specific about how to make spaces between each and every note. Plus, of course, as yourself, I also didn't know that the best way to manage 4-part texture is actually to practice each line separately, and then 2-part combinations only after I can do each line separately, without mistakes.
Yes, that's the best way to do it.
And 3-part combinations comes only after 2-part combination, and so on. So, Ausra, do you think that Minori should despair, or is it an easy problem for him to overcome?
I think he will overcome it in time. It might be hard at the beginning, but I think he will make progress in time. Just don't give up.
When you learn new music today, Ausra, Baroque music, let's say, which has all kinds of articulation, and even romantic music, which also has legato nuances, and you have to coordinate legatos in various voices which are not necessarily together at the same time. Remember, in modern music and legato, we have to shorten certain notes exactly and make them exactly half as short.
Yes, repeated notes.
Repeated notes.
That's the most challenging thing.
Or staccato.
Yes, in romantic music, when you have, few voices, and let's say 2 voices in one hand, or even 3 voices in one hand, but you have to play like 2 voices legato, and 1 voice, has repeated notes, which you have to, to shorten by half. So that's a challenge.
So today, when you practice new music, or when you sight read new music, is it difficult for you to articulate today?
Well, not anymore, but now I know what to do.
When did you first discover that it's not a challenge anymore, that you have different challenges now?
Well, it was maybe, I don't know, 12 years ago.
12 years ago, when...
Or maybe 13 years ago.
Also in America?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So by that time you were playing how many years? In Lithuania you played maybe 6 years, right?
Yes.
In Michigan you played 2
2.
years? But then in Lithuania we had 1 more year.
Yes,
of break.
so at 7, 9, about 10 years.
About 10 years,
Yes.
guys. After 10 years, it becomes easy.
Yes.
So Minori and others who are listening to this, please be patient. Please be patient at least for 10 years.
Yes.
If you can do this, then everything.
Well, but of course you have to practice, hard during those 10 years.
Exactly. And enjoy the process, because each day you will notice some improvement. And that's the most important thing. To be better today than yesterday. Not to compare yourself with the masters, but compare yourself to yourself of yesterday. Okay, guys, this was Vidas.
And Usha.
Please send us more of your questions. We love helping you grow. And you can do this by subscribing to our blog at organduo.lt and replying to any of our messages. And remember, when you practice,
Miracles happen.